All right, folks, hope you had a good weekend. Monday on the Steve Malzberg Show from our New York City studios. Senator Chuck Grassley joins us momentarily to talk Obama, Bibi, Ben Carson, Gitmo, and much more. The University of Missouri president resigns under pressure from black students. We'll have that in the panel. First, let's watch Bibi.
We are obviously tested today in the instability and insecurity in the Middle East, as you described it. I think everybody can see it. This is a tremendously important opportunity for us to work together to see how we can defend ourselves against this aggression and this terror, how we can roll it back. It's a daunting task.
All right, daunting indeed. Joining us now to talk about that and so many other issues is Senator Chuck Grassley. He, of course, is the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee and member of the U.S. Senate Budget and Finance Committees as well. Hello, Senator.
I'm glad to be with you. Thank you very much, Steve.
It's always a pleasure to talk to you. So we weren't in the private meeting. We don't know exactly what was discussed, of course. But the Mideast is a mess, not the least of which are the terrorist attacks by Palestinians on Israelis. What do you think could realistically come out of today's meeting with all the bad blood that exists between these two leaders, Obama and Netanyahu?
If I were the Prime Minister of Israel and I was talking to the President of the United States that made an agreement with a country so it could be nuclear legal within a few years, and they want to blow Israel off the face of the earth, death to Israel, death to America, I think I would wait a year and negotiate with a new president.
That's very interesting. That is very, very interesting. So regardless of who that new president might be, you think it would behoove Netanyahu to just placate Obama with words now and leave the deeds and the serious discussion for the next administration?
Well, don't forget he's been ill-treated by this president many times. I think one of their first meetings didn't go so well, and he wasn't even ushered out of the front door,
right,
out of the back door.
Yep.
And then when he was over here in March to speak to Congress, our president wouldn't meet with him. So that sort of ill treatment, he doesn't owe this president anything. I think Netanyahu would tell you that he owes America a lot. He owes the American people a lot because we have a mutual agreement with them that they're very strategic to our national defense. They're a voice for democracy, and there's also a close working relationship between Jewish people and American people. And so he feels a very closeness to the United States, but there's no reason he should feel a closeness to this president the way he's been ill-treated.
Very well said. Very interesting. Let me talk about the plane that was allegedly, probably, most probably, depending on who's speaking, blown up by ISIS, the Russian plane in the Sinai. Is it true, am I reading it right, that the Congress is increasingly disturbed that we're just not doing enough to fight ISIS?
Oh, without a doubt. I think that it comes from the fact that we don't feel like the president's got any backbone in international policy. He makes decisions that Russia taking over Crimea won't stand. Russia going into Ukraine won't stand. Then for 40 years, it's been the policy of the United States to keep Russia out of the Middle East, and now Russia is very much involved in the Middle East. You draw a line in the sand, and if chemical weapons are used, and there's no consequences, and you have a person that wants to lead from behind, and if you lead from behind, you have no followers. So we have no credibility with our friends, and our enemies don't honor or are not afraid of us. They're emboldened to take whatever action they want to take. And then the American people are very upset about what the commander-in-chief says one thing and doesn't do anything. They're going to turn to the Congress of the United States, so you're bound to hear the strong feeling out of Congress that we aren't doing enough.
And so is it going to be incumbent upon Congress, or is it going to be up to the next president?
Well, it's going to be up to the next president because Congress is not commander-in-chief. We have a big role in foreign policy, approving treaties, appropriating money, approving ambassadors. But the President of the United States is commander-in-chief. about the extent to which we have it is the formulation of the Army, Navy, and appropriating the money. But what's done with those is pretty much illustrated by Theodore Roosevelt when Congress didn't want to send the Navy around the world, and they didn't want to appropriate money to send Navy around the world, and Theodore Roosevelt did it because he carried a big stick, and he wanted to show the rest of the world that we meant business. He says, well, I'm going to send the Navy to Tokyo. If Congress wants to leave them there, we'll leave them there. So you can see from that and the history of the of the power of the Commander-in-Chief clause of the Constitution that the president's in the driver's seat.
Yep, absolutely.
Right now, he's in the driver's seat, but he's not doing much driving.
So let me stick to Obama for a second. Over the weekend, he sent the Democrats an email, reportedly, that he has the one thing he has left to do after health care and climate change and immigration is gun control. There's been reports that he's thinking of bypassing Congress and signing an executive order on background checks where the gun shop owners would have to do background checks. If he did something like that, how would the Congress react?
I think the Congress would react by overturning it by law, because you can see that we don't have much stomach in either political party for more gun control.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. Now, let me also ask you another thing. What about Gitmo? There's rumors and reports that this week he's going to issue an executive order on Gitmo again, bypassing the Congress. How would that sit?
I'm against closing Gitmo. We don't want those terrorists in this country, not so much because we're afraid of them as individuals, but we don't want them using our courts for propaganda tools to get their message out while they're on trial. And getting rid of the prisoners is one thing, but it wouldn't surprise me the next step is if the president figures he's got that much power, to give up Guantanamo to Cuba totally. And I think that would be a very bad mistake.
All right, with the executive orders, one more on that. If he issues the gun law, the executive order on guns, and maybe Gitmo or not Gitmo, I mean, how big an abuse, in your view, is this of his executive authority? And does this call for serious consideration at all of impeachment?
Well, the president would love to have Congress impeach him because it'd make a martyr out of him. So we aren't dumb enough to do that. But what it shows is the lack of respect that he has for the Constitution, and even the courts have said that on 12 occasions. And don't forget, the Supreme Court has said it on 4 or 5 occasions already. One time he took action that even his own 2 appointees to the Supreme Court said he acted unconstitutionally.
Right. All right. Let me ask you very quickly. Have you been following the presidential race and all the brouhaha against Ben Carson? Do you believe the media has been unfair in general to Republicans and specifically to Ben Carson by bringing up his past when there's so many examples? You didn't hear about Joe Biden and his plagiarism in past presidential campaigns. You don't hear about Hillary Clinton claiming she was named after the guy who claimed Mount Everest when she was born first, or that Obama said his parents got married, they were inspired by the Selma March when the Selma March happened after the marriage. I mean, does it feel to you that they're unfairly piling on Ben Carson?
The answer is yes, but in a broader sense, let's just compare the CNBC journalists questioning the Republicans last time compared to the questions that the Democratic candidates have had. I think speaks in a broader way than just the way that Carson has. In Carson's specific case, I would say that when you say something or do something when you're 17 years old, and you're in your early 60s now, there ought to be some leeway from what you perceive when you're 17 years old versus what the situation is now.
Yeah, fair enough. Senator, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for discussing the issues of the day. I really appreciate it. Look forward to talking to you again, sir.
Thank you very much, Steve.
My pleasure. All right, folks, the Malzberg panel's next. Don't go away.